There's a guy who closes seven-figure deals almost entirely because of something he does with his mouth. Not what he says, what he doesn't say. He just stops. Mid-conversation, right when the other person expects him to keep going, he stops talking and lets the silence sit there like an uninvited guest at a dinner party that nobody knows how to ask to leave. And somehow, every time, the other person respects him more for it. That sounds fake. It sounds like something a LinkedIn influencer would post with a stock photo of a mountain. But the mechanism behind it is genuinely weird. And once you see it, you're going to start noticing it everywhere. In every conversation, every meeting, every time someone opens their mouth and immediately makes you trust them less. Okay, so here's the actual thing. There's this concept. Researchers call it strategic pausing. But let's not do that to ourselves. Basically, it's just the deliberate act of shutting up at moments when your instinct is screaming at you to fill the silence. And the reason it works is so deeply wired into your brain that it almost feels unfair. Here's what's happening on a biological level. Silence is uncomfortable, like genuinely physically uncomfortable in the same way a loud noise is. Your nervous system is built to interpret sudden quiet as a potential threat signal. Probably because back when we were living in caves, a forest going silent usually meant something large and hungry was nearby. Your cortisol, basically your body's panic button hormone, ticks upward when conversation drops. Both people feel it. And here's the thing almost nobody realizes. Whoever speaks first to break that silence is usually doing it to relieve their own anxiety, not to contribute anything useful. So when you pause and don't break it, you're essentially demonstrating that you're comfortable in an environment where someone else isn't. And comfort reads as power. Your brain sees someone sitting calmly in the middle of a tense silence and files them under person who knows something I don't, which, honestly, isn't always true. Sometimes they're just waiting. But your brain doesn't know that. Your brain is doing its best, which is not always great. It's like arriving calm to a chaotic scene. Everyone's running around, and one person's just standing there not running. You immediately assume they're either in charge or they broke something. Either way, you watch them. And that's not even the part nobody told you. The part nobody told you is what the pause actually does to the content of what you're saying. There's a reason news anchors, trial lawyers, and that one teacher everybody actually listened to all do the same thing. They pause before the important part, not after. Not for dramatic effect, even though it looks like that. They do it because a pause before a statement triggers something in your brain called an orienting response. It's the same reflex that makes you look up when someone walks into a room. Your attention physically sharpens. Your brain goes, "Oh, something is about to happen," and redirects resources toward processing whatever comes next. So if you say something straight through with no variation, it all lands at roughly the same cognitive weight. But if you pause right before the thing you actually want someone to remember, you've essentially just turned up the volume on that one sentence without saying it any louder. Your brain is primed. The words arrive, and they hit harder. It's less like talking and more like setting a trap, in the politest possible way. Some researcher out there genuinely spent grant money proving that speakers who used deliberate pauses were rated as more intelligent, more competent, and more trustworthy than speakers delivering the exact same content without pauses. Same words, same information. The only variable was the silence. And the silent version won every time, which should probably be more alarming than it is. You could be saying something completely obvious and just stop before the key word, and people will retroactively decide you're thoughtful. I learned this the hard way, by the way. I used to talk at the speed of someone who was afraid the other person might have somewhere to be. Like, if I didn't get it all out fast enough, I'd lose my turn forever. And what that communicated, I know this now, unfortunately, was anxiety. Specifically, the kind of anxiety that looks like you're not sure your own ideas are worth hearing, so you're trying to sneak them past before anyone notices. Tenser than texting your ex, "We need to talk," and then immediately following it with, "Sorry, wrong number." That's what rapid-fire talking sounds like from the outside. The pause says the opposite. The pause says, "I have time. My thoughts are going somewhere. You should wait." Okay, but here's where it gets genuinely weird. The pause doesn't just change how other people perceive you, it changes how you perceive yourself in real time. Because when you stop, and don't immediately scramble to fill the space, your brain interprets your own calmness as confidence, which then produces actual confidence. Your body reads its own behavior and updates its internal model of the situation. You sit still, your nervous system goes, "Oh, we must be okay." And suddenly, you are a little more okay. It's circular in a way that feels like cheating, but here we are. Psychologists call this embodied cognition. Basically, your mind doesn't just drive your body, it takes notes on what your body is doing and factors that back into how you feel, which means you can kind of fake your way into a state by acting like you're already in it. The pause is the simplest version of this. You choose not to panic talk, your body registers that you chose calm, and you actually get slightly calmer, like tricking a thermostat by covering the sensor. Does it make total sense? No. Does it work? Genuinely? Yes. Speaking of your brain taking notes on itself, there's a secondary effect here that people almost never mention. The pause changes what you actually say. Because when you give yourself 2 seconds before responding, 2 actual seconds, which feel roughly as long as a transatlantic flight when you're in the middle of a conversation, you almost always choose better words. Not because you're smarter, but because you had 2 seconds to not say the first thing your brain offered, which is frequently not the best thing your brain has available. Your first draft thoughts are like autocorrect, technically a response, not always the right one. And there's something almost rude about that when you think about it, in the best way. Most people are formulating their response while you're still talking. They're not listening, they're cueing. When you pause after they finish, you're actually demonstrating that you heard them, that their words landed somewhere, and you needed a moment with them. People feel that difference. They can't always articulate it, but they feel like you took them seriously. It's the conversational equivalent of reading someone's text twice before replying instead of firing back in 30 seconds. Same information, completely different vibe. So here's the thing you can actually use. Next time you're in a conversation that matters, a negotiation, a date, a confrontation, a job interview, literally anything with stakes attached, pick one moment where your instinct is to immediately respond and just don't. Let it sit for 2 beats. Not awkward silence, not theatrical pausing, just a breath's worth of space before you speak. Watch what happens to how the other person looks at you. Watch what happens to the words that come out. You're not going to believe it the first time. It's going to feel unbearable from the inside, like standing at the edge of something. But from the outside, it looks like exactly the kind of person everyone in that room wishes they